All right, thank you for joining me today. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the Stanford AI Index Report 2026. Stanford University released about 10 days ago a report about the state of AI. And we're going to take a look at some of the items that I found most interesting. Obviously, the report is extremely long, over 400 pages. So feel free to check it out. The link to the report is in the description of this video. First takeaway from the report is that AI is not plateauing. The skills of the machine is growing, and it's growing fast. In just 1 year, over 2025, it went from being okay at coding to being awesome at coding at or above human level right now, from a baseline of about 60% back then. The latest and brightest models now exceed humans, or meet them. Same level, means human machine. And when we say human, we mean expert in their field, right? On PhD level science questions and mathematics. So that's quite impressive. Second point that I found interesting is about the US and China and their hidden battle around who has the smartest and brightest models. And we can see that at this point in time, the US is leading with Anthropic's model Opus, but China is just 2.7% behind based on some benchmark. Now talking about data centers and chips, the US has over 5,400 data centers, which is a massive number. It's over 10 times more than the next guy. And the next guy is Germany. But the issue is that pretty much all of the chips are made by one single company out of Taiwan called TSMC, that you've probably heard of. So that causes a massive bottleneck and a massive risk to the supply chain of AI chips. Next point, the AI models have very strange gaps in their capacity. The top models can win a gold medal at the world-class mathematics competition, but that same model cannot read an analog clock correctly more than half of the time. So you'd think it can do something easy and have difficulties with something hard, but it appears it's quite the opposite. It can do something really hard well, but it has difficulties with really simple requests, such as reading an analog clock. Luckily, you can just import time in your program. Now let's talk about AI adoption. It's been rising very fast, and by very fast, I mean extremely fast, especially when you compare with prior technologies such as personal computers and the internet. Now, I want to be fair. I see this a lot on the internet, like, oh, adoption is so fast. But I want to be fair. Buying a personal computer when it came out was extremely expensive and not easy. It was very hard to use. The first computers, the first PCs, they had a steep learning curves and not a lot of use cases for your average person. Whilst the internet also required hardware, such as a router, to get access to the internet. And initially, if you remember, you had to disconnect your phone line to plug in your internet cable, so you couldn't receive phone calls or something like that to get the internet, which was extremely slow, and there was pretty much not much to see on the web. It's not the internet that is today. Whilst AI came out for consumers as ChatGPT, which is basically a website, so it requires a personal computer and requires the internet for it to work. And basically, you just go on a website and type in a chat box. So it's much more accessible for people to use. And being on the internet, it's basically free or close to free. I mean, I believe their personal subscription is around $20 a month for a very large amount of use, or you can get a certain numbers of messages for free per day. Now let's talk about the adoption rate. Only it reached about 53% of the population, and it's been growing extremely fast over the course of a year. Some countries like Singapore have higher adoption rates, and in the US, it's only at 28.4%. But it's a much larger country again, so pretty sure there are some good reasons. Now let's talk about education. Let's talk about schools. It appears a lot of students and teachers, by the way, are using AI for their studies or for their work. Now, what happens is that the guidelines around those tools are very poor. Only half of US middle schools and high schools have any AI policy in place, and only 6%, 6, only 6% of teachers say that those guidelines are clear. So we're not going to judge the students for using AI to do their homework. We would have done the same probably, and if you're still in school, you're probably doing it. I know you're doing it, but it is what it is. At this point in time, it is like that. On to the next point that I found interesting is about if AI is making work better. There is a huge gap between experts and the general population on whether AI will make work better. Around 73% of experts are optimistic about the topic, but only 23% of the general public is optimistic about AI having a positive impact on the workspace. And it's understandable because it is expected that it will have a massive impact on jobs. Now, that doesn't say if jobs are replaced and some tasks, are left to AI, but people will still have jobs. And obviously, it's a wide and philosophical conversation about if AI and robots can do everything we need. So what's the place of humans in society, and how do we make sure that everyone's taken care of? Now, I don't have a response, unfortunately, in this video, but it's definitely a topic that's on the table. Now, about energy and water usage. It appeared from the report that training a major model, such as Grok 4, can create as much CO2 as 1,000 cars over their lifetimes. That's a lot of CO2. And using such a model for a year in inference consumes the water needed by 12 million people. And I believe the report mentions drinking water and was referring to GPT-4o, the OG model, for those who know. Well, that's it for today. I thought these are the key points that at least I found the most interesting. The report is super long. There are 10 key takeaways on the website and 15 in the report if you don't want to read through 400 pages. What you can do also is download the 400 and some pages PDF, plug it into your preferred AI, and ask questions. I think it's very interesting. Once again, links are in the description. Download the file, read the report if you'd like. And thank you again for tuning in today and listening to this show. I'll see you in the next. Goodbye. That's the Show. Now you know.